In any case, today's shir is dedicated by Reb David Hirsch, L'schus, Reb Yitzchak Baruch ben Dvari Yehudis, L'refuah Shleima Bekarov, and the schus of our learning should bring him a speedy recovery. So this week's parsha, in Chutz La'aretz, I'll call upon it, is Parshas Chukas. Begins with the din of Parah Aduma. When Azoivis steht in the Torah, Zois Chukas HaTorah. This is defined as the Chukas HaTorah. This is the Choik par excellence. This is the prime example of what we don't understand about Torah. Why is this in particular the Chukas HaTorah? Shatnez we do understand. The Chinuch says that it's because we find the halacha in Parah Aduma that it's metaher tmeim, and at the same time it's metamei taharim. So that's the paradox. Could be that's the shorish of the word paradox. So that's the paradox of para. That on one hand it makes the impure pure, and it makes the pure impure, and therefore this is the choik. This is the choik. So how much can we talk about it? If ein lecha rishus laharachre, like Rashi says, chuka chokakti gzeir gazarzi lefisha asoten v'umas ha'olam moinen es Yisrael loymar ma mitzvah azoi suma tam yesh bo lefichach kosav b'chuka chuka chokakti gzeir gazarzi v'ein lecha rishus laharachre. So what can we say? But I think maybe we are allowed to ask the question, why is it that in order to remove tumas meis, a choik is required? Vaisto is that it takes a choik to remove tumas meis. Now, what is tumas meis about? Be'emes, what's wrong with a mace? Why, when one comes into contact with a mace, does he become tummy? Does he become tummy? Mistama, the pshat is that contact with a mace brings down the human spirit. The exposure to the finite nature of human existence makes us question our own life. As the pasuk says in Koheles, the pasuk says, "Ki mikra bnei ha'adam umikra habehema umikra echad lohem kemoizeh kein moizeh v'ruach echad lakoil." So we feel meaningless. So that has a negative effect on us. It brings us to despair, to Yush. So what's the Eitzah? The Eitzah is not to passively take in the unknown, the questions that threaten to undermine ourselves, but to actively engage the mystery and make it part of our avodas Hashem. When we engage in the service of the Rebbeinu Shalom in an oifen of choik, we actually make it into a mesmerizing mystery, and it enhances our relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom. We really don't understand life. We live with an instinct of immortality, even though we consciously know that we're all going to die. And vice versa, that it's a necessary part of who we are, that we should live with that kind of sense, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to function. But when you really think about the questions, you can become an objective observer of the life experience. And that's kind of dangerous. But we say, don't take it in passively, but engage it in a positive way. And therefore the chukah, the dafke, the Zois Chukas HaTorah is what purifies us from tumas mace, from the impurity that exposure to a mace brings us. You know that Friday, Parshas Chukas, is a tainus that's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, that some Yidden Yechidim are misanin, and the source of this is in the Tanya Rabbosi and the Shiboli Aleket, as the Magen Avram brings, and this is the lotion of the Shiboli Aleket. He says, "Va'al she'onu asukim behilchis tainus ube'inyan streifas haTorah, kosavnu zelazecher al ma she'ira biyomeinu al roiv avoynoseinu asher gormu lanu v'nisrafot Torah Elokeinu b'shnas chameshes alofim v'dalit shonim lebrias oilam." That's 1244. B'yom Shishi Parshas v'zois Chukas HaTorah be'esrim v'arba kroinos malayim sifrei Talmud. They burned 24 wagons of Gemaras in France. V'halachis v'hagodas nisrafu b'tzorfas kasher shomanu l'shema oizen v'gam in harabonim shehoyu shomanu she'osu she'elas cholon lodas im gzeiro hi me'es haboire ve'yishivu lahem v'do gzeira soiraisa upirushoy vov zois Chukas HaTorah hi ha'gzeira u'me'oise hayoim ve'elech kavu ha'yechidim aleim le'esanis boi b'chol shona v'shona b'yom shishi shel Parshas zois Chukas HaTorah v'loi kavu l'yimei hachodesh. You know, there's something really fascinating because he misquotes the pasuk. He says v'zois Chukas HaTorah, and he says the Targum vido gzeira soiraisa, and that's why they made it vov zois Chukas HaTorah on Friday of zois Chukas HaTorah, but it doesn't have a vov in the pasuk. It says zois Chukas HaTorah, not v'zois. I guess maybe in the Shilas Cholim they paraphrased the pasuk. I mean, the answer came as if it says v'zois Chukas HaTorah. Maybe that was the raya taka, that there's a remez over here to make it on Yom Vov, because the Cholim are tzuga like the Vov. But in any case, this is how he writes the pasuk. V'zois Chukas HaTorah, he writes v'do gzeira soiraisa. So this gzeira had to do, as they understood from the dream, that it had to do with Friday Parshas Chukas. That's why they were conveyor the tainus for the day of the week. Nu avada it's Sisrei Torah. I mean, what really does the Streifas HaTalmud have to do with Parshas Chukas? It would seem that there's some kind of a connection between the Streifas HaTalmud and Zois Chukas HaTorah. So, you know, there's a letter from the Ramchal. It's a letter to his Rebbe, the Mari Basan, where he writes, Omnom yeda kvoi Torosoi, ki kusha acheres nimtzeis v'hi atzuma, that there's a big question. Kasher onu yoidim, we know, shekol ma she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu oisel Yisrael, hakoilu rak lahetiv lahem. It's all in order to be meitiv lahem. Ve'eich netzayer b'da'atenu, sheyeh toiv Yisrael, ma she'ein menichin oison umes ha'olam l'ilmoi Torah. We believe that all gezeres come to make us better and to move us forward. And how do we explain that the Inquisition asked the Gemaras? How is this a tikkun? This is azivas hatikun. So he says something really fascinating. He says, Omnam tzarich lodas, ki kosuv, leman tfois beis Yisrael belibam. A pasuk in Yecheskel, that the Gemara says in Kiddushin Daf Lamed Tes, ze ini machshavas avodah zorah, shebo chotu Yisrael. In other words, on all averis, the klal is that machshave ra ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa l'maisa. However, machshavas avodah zorah, the Gemara learns from the pasuk leman tfois beis Yisrael belibam, that machshavas avodah zorah HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa l'maisa. V'tzorech lo tikun proti milvad ha'maisa. So there has to be a tikkun for machshava on its own. Shahari abori baruch hu mitzarfa l'maisa. V'tzorech im kein shnei minei dinim. Echad l'tikkun ha'maisa ve'echad l'tikkun ha'machshava. So he says, ube'emes, L'tikun ha'inyan hazeh kosov, the pasuk in Zechariah, va'amru alufei Yehuda belibam, emtzali yoshvei Yerushalayim, goyme, ki lo yuchlu li'espalel v'rak belibam, yitzaku l'Hashem. In other words, there'll come a matzav that Yidden won't be able to daven. Rak belibam yitzaku l'Hashem, and that is the tikkun for machshava. In other words, the quest, the aspiration, the wanting, the longing that can't be expressed in Maisa, because I guess when the machshava toiva is realized in the world of Maisa, then it's not an independent tikkun of the koyach hamachshava. But when one thinks and wants, and he can't carry out, that, says the Ramchal, is mesaken the machshava. And he says, "Va'afarish ata kol ha'inyan heite. Hine haBorei Baruch Hu, v'aday moeded mida keneged mida, shal yidei zeh yimotzei tikkun makbil l'chol kilkul. Ubeyois hanashamas begolus, tachas haklipos, shtayim heino hadrochim timtze'enu lahem l'saken es hashorish hakloli." Anyway, he goes on to explain that this is the this is the tikkun shemesaken Moshe v'chaveiro of soivlei hachaloim al Yisrael she'omru b'sefer hazoyer she'ein ha'or magia aleim v'atorah einena mizgala v'halo yiro she'ein ze tikkun ki adirabbe ho yitzorich shemitoich ha'yisurim yitzchasku yoyse b'or ha'kedusha achoem asi shekol eila tzrichen l'saken l'fi beis hadvorim hadrochim shezacharti. So he says that the Shreifas HaTalmud, the fact that the Chakir is Moinea Limud HaTalmud, and Yidden want to learn, and that's a big nisoyim, because to continue to want what you can't accomplish is something that we find hard to do, because usually we give up, and we don't want to do things that we can't do. But if a Yid is Zoiche, and he keeps his rotzen to do, even when he can't do, that's the tikkun ha-machshava, and that's the tikkun for the chet avodah zarah and bayis rishon. That's what the Ramchal says. So lefi zeh, what's the point of the chayk of para and the chukas haTorah b'chlal? The chayk of the para, it's a tikkun that happens michutz l'sholosh machnes dafka. It reflects a situation of gershuni mihistapeach benachlas Hashem. The korban is a chatosi, but it actually comes about by being yored from kedushas damim lemizbeach to kedushas bedek habayis. There's a leiv bezn masne, as it's mavur in the Gemara in Shavuos. In other words, so the para aduma is really removed from kedusha, but it's a yerida that's tzorech aliyah, and it's dafke the sheifa from afar that is the yisoid hatikun of para aduma. The chukas haTorah is miskayim, and through the chukas haTorah we have a kiyum of the ongoing quest of amarti echkema v'hi rechoyka mimeni that never becomes realized. So this is also the tikkun for the Chet HaEgel, as Rav Moshe HaDarshan says, that, Tovoi imoy usikadeach soyas beno, because the Chet HaEgel was a Chet that was about lo yodanu mehoyaloi, kizeo ish Moshe, lo yodanu mehoyaloi, the inability to live with doubt and with lack of understanding. But the Para Aduma is about not understanding, but nevertheless not losing the wanting to understand. That's the relationship that we have with the Rebbeinu Shalom through questions. I mean, that's really, we know that Yidden have more words for questions than any other language. We have a kasha, we have a shaila, we have a tiyufta, we have an iboya, and most of the Talmud Bavli is questions. The questions are in themselves a way to connect with the Rebbeinu Shalom. If you think you have the answer, you're done. But as long as you're amarti echkima, You're trying to understand better. That's and in spite of the fact that it's rechoika mimeni, that's the chukas haTorah. And Memela, the Shreifas HaTalmud is shayach to zois chukas haTorah, because as the Ramchal says, the Gemaras were burnt in order that Eden shouldn't be able to learn. The tikkun is they shouldn't be able to learn, and they should continue to want to learn. And that's the tikkun for the machshavas avodah zarah of Bayis Rishon. So listen, the message is very obvious and very clear that any obstacle and any difficulty is not there that we should give up. But Adirabba, it's about the ongoing quest that gives us a meaningful relationship with all Dvarim Shebekdusha. Rabbi Say, I want to express my special thanks for the fact that, when we started this thing, it was like an amarti echkima. Yeah, I mean, you thought you were going to hear something and there's nothing coming, but you didn't give up and you stayed on, and some stuff, Baruch Hashem, so we were able to talk to each other. Yeah, Zolti sein gesund and a guten Shabbos.